Maybe you should say, maybe you should just say that again. Call it to order again.
Calling this meeting for the Planning and Zoning Committee for UNNC. I'm John Arnold, the chair of the committee. Today is October 6th, and we have an agenda. And the first few items, so call to order. First item is just a backstory. I'll let Laura actually do the motion.
Right.
But because the governor's edict from 18 months ago expired on the 1st of October regarding COVID, and the what do we call it? The release, the adaptation of Brown Act, it has expired. They did not renew it, but they are requiring us to still state that there is a state of emergency with COVID, and that we'll be doing this on a case-by-case, meeting-by-meeting basis from here on out until something changes from Sacramento. So Laura, if you want to take that motion of AB 361. Good.
Right. So I hope you guys can see my screen, and I make a motion to adopt AB 361 findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E1 B through C, and determine that due to the COVID-19 state of emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health or the safety of attendees.
Can I second that, Laura? Or do we need some?
Yeah, anybody can. Yeah, you can second.
I'll second that.
And you'll see, I hope you can see the screen. This is the actual adopting resolution. And the explanation is sort of, the explanation is that in California, legislative bodies will need to adopt a resolution apparently every 30 days. So most standing committees or governing boards of NCs or HPOZ boards and commissions, et cetera, if they meet twice a month, only have to do it once a month. And any entity that meets monthly has to do it every 30 days. It's not clear yet if this is how it's going to be done for sure with neighborhood councils. So we adapted the HPOZ resolution. Well, we adapted it by putting the word UNNC committees instead of HPOZ, Jefferson Park, or whatever. That's the only adaptation. And this is in part because of this, the County of Los Angeles has still declared it an emergency. So that's the local entity. So the motion is to adopt this resolution.
And I'll second that.
And you had seconded it. So should I stop the share?
Sure.
Or what do you think?
Can you post that in the
It is posted in the agenda packet.
Oh, good. Okay, so let's with that at UNNC committees, everyone who is attending, who is a stakeholder, is a voting member of the committee for the evening. So everyone in the room, take a vote on that. Okay. Everyone in favor of adopting AB 361 for the next month,
bottom of the page.
Please raise your hand, either virtually or actually.
On this thing here.
I don't have time to do that.
Chris and Demetrius, can you mute yourselves?
Yeah, now.
Okay.
Next one.
Okay, it looks like anyone opposed. Everyone can lower their hands if you've raised it to vote. Anyone opposed?
Teresa is opposed.
I don't see Teresa. Teresa, are you opposed?
She
Yes,
is.
I'm opposed, John.
Okay, great. Thank you. I didn't see your video. Okay, so it looks like that has passed. And so now we can go into the regular agenda. Good evening again. My name is John Arnold. I'm the new chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee. And my co-chair is?
Laura Myers.
Laura and I are both UNC members. So if we can go through the room, anyone who wants to unmute themselves and announce themselves you're a board member, that might be an appropriate thing to do, but if not, we can proceed. We have quite a few people. I'm not sure if we should go through everybody, but should we go through everybody?
It'd be nice if
Okay.
people don't know each other, because I see names that I know everybody, but not everybody knows everybody.
So Teresa, you're next in line in my chat. Do you feel like introducing yourself?
Thank you, John. My name is Teresa Masonette, and I represent the West Adams Avenues region on the United Neighborhoods Neighborhood Council.
Great, thanks. Luis. Lou, can you introduce yourself if you wish?
It's Louis Chase he asked for.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he was referring
Oh,
to
there,
the other
there are
Louis.
two Lou's in the house. Louis, please.
Yes. I'm the Reverend Louis Chase, the Minister of Community Outreach at the Holman United Methodist Church.
Great, thanks for coming.
Mhm.
How about Lou? You're next. I feel like
I'm a Louis Zilstra, and I work for ENB Natural Resources. I'm the Senior Vice President of the LA Basin.
great. Let's go to Ted.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ted Cordova. I'm also representative of ENB Natural Resources, and I'm serve as a vice president for our company.
Great. Brittany.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Liu. I'm a student and I'm also part of Redeemer Community Partnership. It's good to be here.
Great, thanks for coming back. Demetrius and Chris.
And you're mute. Now you are muted and you don't need to be. Mhm.
Okay, I'm not muted now. Okay, I live in Western Heights and I represent with my wife, Chris, and we have been living here for 30 years.
And Chris is a board member. I can say that.
My name is Chris Carlson. I am a board member on the United Neighborhoods Council. I am the area rep for the Western Heights and Kinney Heights area. I'm also a professional geologist as my husband, but we have lived here for 33 years.
Eric.
Hi, I'm Eric Barlow. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for STEM Prep Schools. We operate the Math and Science College Prep High School, which is located on Adams and Arlington. It's been a little bit since I've attended one of these meetings, so it's good to see you all. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for coming. Jasmine.
Good evening, everyone. Jasmine Johnson. I'm a board member at large on UNNC.
Steve.
I'm Steve Peckman. I am a resident of Jefferson Park and have been involved in local oil issues for over a decade.
Thanks, Steve. Richard Parks.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Richard Parks. I'm a longtime resident. I've lived in the community for about 35 years, and I serve as the president of Redeemer Community Partnership.
Thanks for coming. And lastly, phone numbers starting ending with 2443. If you wish to identify yourself, please do. If not, we understand you're on the phone. It's more challenging that way.
2443 is Colleen, ENB employee.
Great. Hi, Colleen. And that's it. I think we got everybody. Okay. So next up is item number of approving the agenda. So we sent out an agenda for the Brown Act on Sunday. Let me share my screen. Find it. Go. Can you see that?
Yep.
So here's the agenda. We're on item number 3. I have a motion to adopt the agenda.
I second it.
My hand is raised.
Steve?
So I have a question before we approve the agenda. You said that it was sent out. By what method was it sent out on Sunday?
through our regular channels. Laura, you're
Yeah, the
So
city
the
sent,
email with the agenda that I received was sent out yesterday evening.
correct.
Isn't
the
that a violation of the Brown Act?
No, it is not. The Brown Act requirement is that we submit it to the city and it sends it out. So we submit it on time, and that it be on our website. And it was on the website by 7 p.m. on Sunday night. The outreach methods that we do, because it may have also been on Facebook, are not part of the Brown Act requirement, according to the city attorney.
I request that this committee send out its agenda through the email channels at the same time it posts on the website, because otherwise it's impossible to notify the community of what's going on with this committee and what's on the agenda, so that they can also participate in these important meetings.
Yes, thank you for that, Steve. It is, however, not possible to do that necessarily for several reasons, but most importantly, we won't have the link for the website at the same time that you're requesting that we send out the agenda, and we can only send 1 or 2 e-blasts a week. So if we have multiple meetings in a single week, we have to time the e-blasts so that we can capture multiple meetings, and that is a technical thing, not a personal thing where we want to limit our outreach. It's actually a MailChimp requirement.
Well,
Laura,
I'll just end my part of the agenda with, I believe that's a disenfranchisement of the community and a disincentive for a community to participate in these important meetings.
Okay, but anyone may sign up for the city's system, where you would have gotten, in this case, not always, but in this case, much earlier notice. So that is what the city considers notification. And I understand your point completely. And John, Teresa has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, thanks. Teresa?
Thank you, John. I think we heard Mr. Peckman's comment. It was unnecessary and is unnecessary to continue with this. Let's approve the agenda or not, and move on to the next item. Thank you, John.
So thanks, Teresa. I agree, Steve. We can't talk about this in any depth or discussion or action, but let me talk to Laura in our interstitial phases between meetings and see what's possible to make sure to see if this works better. Okay, next up, any other public comments?
No, we have to approve the agenda still.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gosh, sorry.
Oops.
Any other comments on the agenda?
I second the motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, so let's take a vote. I can't see the chat room. So if, while I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to stop sharing. I can see the chat room. So if everyone could raise your hand, all those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, please raise your virtual or actual hand on the camera.
But that's
Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, I see. Someone lowered their hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Lowering my hand. Jasmine, your hand is still up. Are you opposed? And Chris and Demetrius, your hand is up.
Any opposed?
Well, I don't know.
Okay. Anyone? Okay, now everyone's down. Anyone opposed? I see.
Yes, I oppose.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Okay, the motion passes. We've approved the agenda. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again with the agenda. Next up is public comment, 1 to 2 minutes per speaker. Does anyone have a public comment concerning anything that's not agendized this evening? Chris Carlson, I see your hand up.
Chris, you're muted.
Yes, I was just getting unmuted. I would like to ask that in response to Steve Peckman's issue that we post in the chat how for any participants to be able to sign into the city program so they get the quickest, most effective communication on.
I
Okay.
would like to see that too, Laura. Can you please post that link into the chat, please?
I will attempt to look for it during the course of this meeting.
Thank you.
Because I don't know what it is, frankly. I'll have to figure it out.
Any other public comment or any unagendized item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on to the next item. So the next two items, number 5 and number 6, are
John, I'm sorry, I do have to interrupt you. Please don't combine them because I am recused from item 6 and I need to not be present for any discussion about it.
Yes, I'm going to do a general informational item for the two items, number 5 and number 6. When we write motions for UNNC, we pass them as letters, we pass them as CISs, we pass them as a number of things that get sent to certain places. If we don't pass certain items as certain things, they cannot get to the venues that we might want to have them seen at. For example, we passed item number 5 over the past month, or at the last governing board meeting, and that was not made into a CIS, so will not go to city council. It did go to the planning department, it did go to CD10, but to get it in front of council, which we believe we want, we can take a vote on it, we need to convert it to a CIS, which would be a short statement with the longer statement of the housing element response attached to it. So that's the background on that. So basically, this is not a substantive conversation about our housing element letter that we wrote, which is about 19 pages long, that is available as a public document, but passed by UNNC. So the motion, Laura, is there anything else that you
Yeah,
need?
well, the motion is on the agenda and I can share the letter. I'm able to share the letter if it's desirable, but I will make a motion first. The motion is to recommend to the UNNC governing board that it ratify its previous position and comment letter regarding the city's housing element and adopt a further resolution and community impact statement, CIS, to permit UNNC to file a community impact statement reflecting this to the Los Angeles Planning Commission in advance of its hearing on the matter, as stated on the agenda. That's the motion.
So again, this isn't a substantive conversation about the housing element, but just I guess a process.
Right. So
to get it into a different venue.
John, it needs a second.
I second it.
Thanks,
Chris
Chris.
Carlson.
Okay. And so the question is, did you want me to share the screen with the letter or not?
I believe it's good to share that, or at least post it in the chat so people have access to review it.
It's 19 pages, Chris. I can't post it in the chat.
Is there a link we can at least provide the public so they have access to it?
It's on
Some way?
Yes, it's on the agenda. I'll copy and paste it into the chat.
Super, that'd be great. Thanks a lot.
So I think just for visual sake, let's post at least the front page.
Okay. Wait, so let me share first and then I'll post in the chat. How's that? Is that fair?
Sounds excellent.
Give me a moment. I really do have it because I purposely brought it up, but now I'm not finding it. Okay. I'm not finding it. Give me a moment here because I'm sure I have it. Did that go into, did that share or not share? Probably not.
No, it did not, but your screen's coming up now. So
Is that sharing now?
I see nothing in the chat.
Not yet.
Now it is.
There it is. You got it.
Okay. So, and once we stop the share, I'll post the link in the chat.
So this is the letter product of many months of work, which some people in this room participated in. Pretty comprehensive letter about the housing element topics that affect UNNC. Any questions, any comments, any discussion on this process that we moved?
And also, if you guys have trouble accessing the Google Drive but you want a copy of the letter, post your email into the chat and I will just send it to you.
Okay, hearing no comments or questions, we'll call a vote. So let's see if we can do this. So everyone, if please raise your hand digitally or virtually. I mean, virtually or real life. Okay.
I'm raising.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Dimitri, so you both, I'm not sure if you both want to vote. Thank you. 7. Okay, so please everyone lower your hand.
I know. Just give me a minute.
Okay, I see all lower. Anyone opposed? Please raise your hand either virtually. I see no one opposed. Okay, so the motion passes. For the next item, Laura, could you please recuse yourself?
Wait. I have to make a statement. Because I live about 5 properties away from the subject property, and I may have other conflicts of interest due to not just my proximity, but my advocacy. I need to be recused and I will leave the room. John, I hope you have your phone with you because you'll have to call me to tell me to come back because I can't be put in a waiting room because I'm the host. Or Teresa, either one, but I am departing now. Sorry.
I do not have my phone with me. It's in the house.
I'll text her when we're ready, John.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so similarly, the next item, 1848 South Gramercy, is a development proposal that we've actually literally spent years on writing letters, and we finalized a letter last year, resent it this year because the case became for Planning Commission. I authored the letter with the assistance of the Planning and Zoning Committee minus Laura. And so similarly, we want to get this sent to the Planning Commission and all others that require a CIS versus a letter or a motion or resolution. So similar item, not substantive. Anyone wants to see that letter? I do not have a copy of it close by, but I will try to get it into the chat before the evening is out. But it is basically a letter. It has about 10 points of why UNNC is opposed to this development project at 1848 South Gramercy. Again, so any comments or discussion about this? Any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to call the vote. I need a motion. I move for item number 6. Can I have a second, please?
I second.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, motion and second. Please raise your hand if you are in favor of this motion, virtually or actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in favor. Please lower your hands. Anyone opposed? Okay, no opposition, seeing none. Motion passes, and we'll send that as a CIS or bring it to the governing board to recommend that the governing board send it as a CIS. Okay, thanks. We can bring Laura back in. So the next item is item number 7. And is an ongoing situation with the Murphy oil drilling site, which is located at 2126 West Evans Boulevard. At this point, since Laura has historically been the chair and the follower of this item, I know enough about it to be dangerous, but not to actually run the meeting. I'm going to hand this item number 7, over to Laura, who will introduce not only the historical context in UNNC, as Steve said earlier, it's been about a decade that we've been working on this, but she'll introduce, I think, at least 2 presenters, and then we'll start the discussion of this item. There is no action proposed for this evening, just a discussion.
So, yes, thank you, John. And also during the course of today, I did receive an email from the planning department indicating that there will not be a hearing in October and likely not a hearing in November, that they think the earliest there'll be a hearing on this is December now. So we might have a little more time, but we do need to keep on top of it. Our current thought process schedule was that we were taking this to the board, this whole matter to the board on Thursday, November 4th. So it may be that it's doable instead on Thursday, December 2nd. So I just don't know at this moment. But they seem to have had some delays. They still haven't really assigned staff. So, what?
And so Steve Peckman pointed out earlier today that he is the co-chair of the subcommittee on oil drilling.
Are all of our chairs and co-chairs more or less expired in August, September? So I hope Steve can come tomorrow night to the board to be reappointed.
So let me just say, Steve has
yeah.
been historically the sub-chair of this committee. So Steve is in the house. So thank you.
Yeah, I know Steve's in the house, and Chris has expressed interest as well. And Teresa has her hand up, so I'll stop and you can have a brief discussion and then I'll go back in.
No, thank you, John, and thank you, Laura. I just would like to reiterate to Mr. Peckman and to Chris, the board has now asked individuals who are interested in chairing committees, subcommittees, representing the board in an alliance or a liaison to please come to the board meeting and self-nominate or have someone nominate you so we can vote on it. Thank you.
And I will just add, for anybody who's chair, co-chair of any land use committee, subcommittee, they will be required. I think, Chris, you've already done this, but required to take the new planning training that the city council voted for and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment is slowly implementing. And it's kind of boring. John and I took it, even though we could have taught it. As I think Steve could teach it. I think Chris could teach it, but we had to take it. And so that's not this agenda topic, but that's just by the way. And Chris has her hand up.
I just wanted to confirm for Teresa that I have communicated my direct interest to both Laura about continuing as co-chair of the oil subcommittee, and it is my hope that Steve will like to continue as well.
Right, Chris, it's just you missed that you were not able to really see what was going on. The board decided a person must be present. They're not stealing away these titles. They're just
I will
kind
be
of in
present
abeyance.
tomorrow.
It must be present.
No problem. I will be present tomorrow. Just giving everyone that communication.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's proceed with the item, thanks.
Yes, please. So this is just a photo that I grabbed off the internet so that people can sort of see our setting. Basically, UNNC has been involved in one way or another with multiple cases, land use cases, with what's called the Murphy drill site for, I don't know, almost 20 years. I'm not sure of the exact number of years, but this is, it's an oil drilling site, but it is not like the oil drilling that you see in Baldwin Hills or you see in the historic photos with derricks everywhere. It's an underground operation, essentially, but it is an industrial use. And this location is basically Adams and Gramercy. So where Gramercy tees into Adams at, it would be basically the far left-hand side of this photo. And you can see Independence Square at the top left. There's an apartment complex with a yellow painted building, so lots and lots of apartments in the sort of right-hand side. And there's a wall surrounding this operation. And at the rear, which would be the lower right-hand side, that the drop where you see some greenery is 30 feet down to what becomes then a sort of landscape park-like setting that extends to 27th Street. So I'm going to stop this share. I just wanted to show you geographically the placement. So over time, the oil districts were first approved initially in the late 1950s, early 1960s. The initial approvals by the zoning administrator of that era were essentially for exploration for the oil companies. In this case, it was Union 76 or 76 Union Oil, to test out different locations to see which ones would work for drilling. So they not only tested this site, they, for example, tested where Food for Less is at 18th and Western. That was another site they tested, and it failed the test. So they never did create a drill site there. So for example, so I don't know where the failures were, but where the successes were in our community was this Murphy drill site, and it had two ancillary but related sites, one at 4th and Washington and one at Jefferson and Budlong. And the oil is extracted through, and we'll hear, I think, more detail, through a method called slant drilling. I'm not really clear if it's continuous drilling, but it's more like continuous extraction at a slant once the well is drilled. And the wells, in quotes, bottom out in different locations throughout our area, or bottom in locations throughout our area. So there's both oil and methane that comes with the process. And part of, over the years, these discussions have been not just what do you do with the oil, but what do you do with the gas? And are you allowed to process it there? The answer is no. I mean, this is not a place where oil is refined and processed into the final thing that goes in your car. It is not a place where gas is processed so that it could go into your home heater. This is more or less an extraction site, not a refinery site. And also over the years, there's the original language and the original early 1960s approval talked about technology that existed at the time. And it is obviously decades later. So over the time that UNNC has been involved with this location, some of the cases were about changing technology to be, modern and cleaner and more efficient, or maybe more noxious. So, it was those kinds of discussions. The big victory we felt we had years ago was when we read in the early cases that the area below that 30-foot tall wall, the area between the rear wall of the drill site down to 27th Street, was intended to be fully landscaped. At the time, it was something like 50, not 50 trees, but a lot of 50-foot tall eucalyptus trees, which by the time we were paying attention, 100% were dead. So it became, what do you do with that site? So the ruling, maybe 15 years ago, I don't have the dates in front of me, was that that rear area had to be re-landscaped. One of the then UNNC board members was a landscape designer, and she worked with the then operator, not the current operator, to design what you see today, sort of, because it would have had a lot less grass and more natives and drought resistant, but so it's more grass now. But the core design of sort of an arroyo coming down the hill. And it was to be rock, and then they changed it to be broken concrete because that was material they had on hand and would have ended up in landfills. So, that was a collaborative design effort between one of our board members and the then oil operator. And we still do regular inspection usually annual sort of inspection walkthroughs in that park-like setting. So that's the background, and John just walked away. That's the background. I don't think there's anything else I would have to say other than to say this case is now called PA6, so that it has an underlying case number that dates back to, again, around 1961, 62, thereabouts. And then PA6 is plan approval number 6. And that's on the straightforward underlying conditional use permit for the drill site itself. So again, there's been sort of some side cases over the years that had to do with the gas as opposed to the oil or the site. So there's more than 6 cases when you go back in history, but this is a plan approval 6, and it's a review of conditions and a review of compliance. Those are not the same thing. The review of compliance would be with the conditions as set forth in PA4 and previous to PA4, plan approval 4. And those are conditions that are existing that the zoning administrator had imposed over the years. Review of conditions means reviewing whether the conditions that are currently in place are sufficient to be sure that this is a good neighbor in a residential community. So, and I think that would be what UNNC should say, and let instead the applicant take over from here. John, you muted yourself.
I know. So just in a nutshell, the reason that we are here tonight is to hear the current operator about their compliance methods, what they're doing to comply, or what's.
Well, it's become, and the city planning department has converted it to an application, a plan approval application. So originally, I guess I should say there was a letter of complaint, and I don't mean it was a one-page, it was a long letter of complaint. I think we're going to hear about that. Planning department reached out to E&B, the new owners, and they're not the owners of the land, they're the operator on a lease. Got a response, and whatever else happened, made a decision that E&B Resources, if I'm saying the name of the company correctly, needed to apply for a plan approval case, which leads to a public hearing, which will happen at some time, as I mentioned earlier, soonish, but not tomorrow.
So we have 2 presentations. One is by E&B, the operator. The other is by a local advocacy neighborhood group.
And I should add that in our agenda packet, we have the letter from the planning department. We have the letter that's attached to the application. We have the application itself and some other materials. But what I did not put at this point in our agenda packet is myriad prior cases, because I'm not really clear how this relates to the prior cases or not. One of the things we'll learn tonight.
Great. So that said, we have an hour and basically an hour and 15 minutes from right now. We're dedicating the rest of the meeting to this topic. We are going to put a time limit on both presentations to 10 minutes. And then we're going to have a question and answers or discussion for the rest of the period. So if it doesn't come up in the presentations, we'll have ample opportunity to discuss it further. So with that, Laura, do you think we're ready to start with the initial presentation by E&B?
Yeah, and Ted, do you or Lou have an actual presentation? Meaning, do I need to make you a co-host for screen share, or are you gonna just chit chat?
No, we've prepared some kind of basic comments, but we were kind of leaving it open to wherever the board wanted to go for question and answers, or what we want to dive into more
So you
detail.
don't. So you don't need to screen share. That's all I'm asking. Okay.
No.
So I think John turned the gavel over to you.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Ted Cordova. I serve as Vice President of E&B Natural Resources. And with us tonight is our Senior Vice President, Lou Zylstra. Lou is the head of our LA Basin Operations, Facilities, and Team. and has over 40 years experience in the industry and is a registered professional engineer in the state of California. Thank you again for the invitation to be with you all tonight to discuss our company's application to the city of Los Angeles. We appreciate that opportunity to be here with you all tonight. So basically, I'm going to give a little background on the EMB, some background on our application, and talk a little bit about what we provided to the city. And then we can go wherever the board would like to go from there. So a little bit on EMB. We're a California-based company producing oil and gas for the state of California. We have operations and facilities throughout the state, as well as Wyoming, Kansas, and Louisiana. Here in the city of Los Angeles, we have several sites we operate. Specifically within your Council District 10, the only sites we operate are the Murphy site, which, as you all know, is located at 2126 West Adams Boulevard, and the Packard site, which is off Pico and in between Packard and Spalding Streets. Just for a reminder, we took over, Laura was correct, we took over the Murphy operation from Sentinel Peak Resources. That happened in October of 2019. And we just want to make it clear to everyone, I think you all know this, but there's some other sites that are in your area. We do not own the Jefferson site, nor do we own the one that was at 4th Street. And we do not own the site at Pico Doheny. We get that question a lot. Our operations basically are focused on what the industry calls upstream. So what that means is we produce oil and natural gas from where the oil fields are. And then as local producers, we then sell the product to local refineries. Laura was correct when she pointed out that there is no refining done on our sites. Specifically for the Murphy site, the product is transported via pipeline. So a little bit on our application. On July 30th, our company turned in our plan approval application for a review of conditions outlined under ZA 15227-0 for the Murphy site. This was done at the request of the city's planning department, and the purpose is to review the applicant's compliance with and effectiveness of those conditions under PA4. We do believe this was prompted by correspondence that Mr. Parks instigated with the city. But regardless of that, EMB would like to make it clear that we are in total support of the city's request and its review process, and we are actively collaborating and moving that forward. So what did we provide to the city? Well, under the direction of the city planning department, we turned in our plan approval application and associated requests for information. So this includes information that you have in your package of information tonight. 1 is our cover letter and review of compliance. 2 is the land use application, and 3, the environmental assessment form. And within this framework, there is a huge binder filled with associated information, and along with our compliance record with outside agencies and a lot of information that the city requested of us. It was our understanding that copies went out from the planning department, and 1 was sent to Council District 10 and 1 was sent to your neighborhood council. The city will review our compliance at our scheduled hearing, which has not been set yet. Laura, we were kind of told the same thing, that maybe in December or sometime in 2022, we heard that there's quite a bit of a backlog right now with cases, and they will get to it at some time in that time frame. And we haven't at this time, we do not have an assigned date. Beyond the city's review and public hearing that will take place, the Murphy site is regularly inspected by other agencies such as the state regulatory agency CalGEM, South Coast Air Quality Management District, Los Angeles Fire, and Coupa, just to name a few. At this time, we're in good standing with those agencies. Beyond the review of our conditions, EMB is asking, you'll see in our cover letter, as part of our application, EMB is asking the zoning administrator for some additional conditions. Based off of conversations in the past that we've had with the community, we believe these are good neighbor provisions that we'd like the neighborhood council to review and take a position of support on. Let me just go over a few of them. One of them is annual inspections. This is, you may all be aware, in the city of Los Angeles, this is a motion that was started a while ago. And, for whatever reason hasn't taken effect. We started an annual inspection at our Rancho site. We worked with Councilmember Paul Koretz and the community and the local neighborhood council. We were all met on this item and decided this would be an important piece to the Rancho site. We believe the same would be good for the Murphy site as well. So E&B proposes a condition requiring the drill site and operations be inspected annually by the petroleum administrator in concert with such other city agencies, the petroleum administrator, and or city deems necessary in order to evaluate compliance with city code, conditions assigned in ZA approvals, and city permits. Another thing that we're doing over at the Rancho site with our community working group that we got as a condition for our Rancho site that we also think is worth supporting is supplemental emergency reporting. So how this would work was E&B proposes a condition that requires it to immediately notify appropriate city agencies and entities, including the Los Angeles Fire Department, the petroleum administrator, and the local city council of any emergency or accident or spill that requires reporting to any state, county, or regional agency. And lastly, we included air monitoring. E&B proposes a condition requiring it to, within 6 months of the issuance of the ZA's determination letter, install and begin operating a fence line emissions monitoring system using commercially available equipment that provides continuous monitoring and data recording of quantities of specified pollutants in a manner to be approved by the petroleum administrator in the city. And it should be noted that this is something that we're doing at Rancho as well. And this is a program that we volunteered for to do as a pilot program in conjunction with South Coast Air Quality Management District and the city of Los Angeles. So that's something that we're ready to move forward on in implementation. We believe these are good conditions for the site, the city, and for our neighbors. Also in our letter, we raised a question for the ZA to clarify the approval status of having microturbines on site. The site is operated using electric power using microturbines. Microturbines are essential to ensuring you have something to do with a portion of your gas. They're an alternative and much better solution than to having a flare. We had a community inquiry about it, and although we see plenty of references made on the issue, we thought it would be a good idea to bring this one to the city and to the zoning administrator and ask them to opine on it. So we did ask the question. I'm going to stop at this point and go in any direction the board would like. Thank you for your time. We realize there's a lot of information to go over, and certainly we're more than happy to answer any questions and do any follow-up as needed. Thank you for your time.
I think right now, if anyone has any informational questions, we have plenty of time to discuss, but if anyone has any clarifications they want from anything that Ted said, that's not an engagement of discussion or debate, that would be great because we'll have plenty of time for that. So Steve, your hand, I see your hand up, and then we have another presentation too. So I want to gauge that, but I also don't want to, I want to keep Ted's talk fresh in everyone's mind. Steve?
Thank you. Just one point of clarification. I just want to make sure I understood correctly. So Mr. Cordova, your proposal to the city includes a request to approve the existing microturbines at the site or additional microturbines to turn the gas into electricity?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Steve. We had an inquiry from the community stakeholder asking about whether or not the microturbines ever were officially approved. And we had gone back and forth with this community member about references that are in the past zoning administrators case files. And it looked to us like that there were plenty of references being made, but look, we're not the zoning administrator, nor are we the city, and we weren't the past operator years past when all that kind of transpired. So we were just bringing the question to the zoning administrator to kind of opine on the past record and give an opinion of what sort of conversations took place years ago and what's in their records.
Okay, so that's kind of a long answer, John, if you don't mind. It is a point of clarification. I'm not sure I heard the answer to the question. Are you or are you not asking for approval of the existing microturbines? And or part of that, are you asking to install additional microturbines? I guess I'll expand the question now to, or are you just asking for the zoning administrator to review the records and see if you're already approved? I don't understand your answer.
Okay, so let me be clear. So no, we're not asking for approval of the microturbines, and no, we're not asking for an expansion of the microturbines. We are yes, we're asking for a clarification on past records.
Thank you.
Sure.
John, you're muted, so I was waiting for you to call on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris Carlson, I was muted. Chris?
Did you call on me, John?
I did when I was
Okay.
muted, sorry.
My question to Ted is, as regards to the third ask that you're asking the zoning administrator to of additional conditions on the air quality site monitoring, will that continuous monitoring data be available in real time to the community? And is that currently how it's working in Rancho Park?
No, that's not how it's currently working at Rancho Park. We've made that data available to as part of our annual inspection. So the way that our annual inspection at Rancho works right now is that EMB, the zoning administrator had imposed a condition on our ask and did move forward with annual inspections, but they moved forward in a different way than I think our group had envisioned. They had it where we were responsible for the inspection as the operator instead of the city, and so we had gone back to our community working group and said, okay, that's not exactly what I think everybody had in mind. So the only thing that we came to conclusion on was like, okay, well, we'll volunteer to hire a third-party firm to audit our inspection. And so as part of that audit, we've provided the data to our third-party to the third-party firm, and they audit the information and they audit the data. So that's the way it's been working. It hasn't been I don't know. You can't like log in and see the data at this point. It's more been still in a kind of a pilot program phase, but that's something that could be worked on.
We've exceeded the capability of Ingersoll Rand's equipment. And I decided to install the air monitoring over a year ago. It's been on location. There's multiple air monitoring units. There's the same units that the fire departments use before they go into a hazardous condition. It's also the same units that they put on drones and fly over looking for emissions. We thought it would be a good idea to monitor the emissions that potentially could be going out through our equipment in the neighborhood. It monitors the wind direction, it monitors the carbon monoxide, it monitors the methane, and we've exceeded the capability of Ingersoll Rand because they don't have direct computer access. We have to bring it onto our computer server and download the data. But we are sharing that data with you, and it's been around with fire departments for a long time. It started with Huntington Beach Fire Department because of the smells coming off of the Pacific Ocean. Cal State University Long Beach used it because of smells in Long Beach, and ENB invested a lot of money to put these units, and we picked Murphy as the third site where we installed them. We do know that Ingersoll Rand is eventually going to upgrade their capabilities where perhaps it could be continuous monitoring for you.
Okay, great, thanks, Lou. Laura,
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to follow up on what Steve was asking. It is true that there have been discussions of microturbines a lot. But I personally don't recall there ever being an, in words out loud, kind of straightforward, plain English approval of using this technology. And my personal preference would be that it be clarified, that the current operator ask the question and maybe say, please, you know, ask for it to be a condition, and maybe not the words micro and turbine, because maybe 9 years from now there's something else. But it's this ever evolving technology, and the idea here is that you're trying to co-generate and maybe eventually solely generate the electricity that you need on the site. Is that okay? Does the zoning administrator say that's fine? Because God knows it could be solar at some time. So, you know, I don't know that we should be keeping on revisiting things by dancing around the topics. So my personal preference would be get it somehow approved. Or I know the risk is that they'll say no, but I'm concerned that they're there without an overt outlet.
I fear that we're going to veer into discussion.
Done.
So
Okay,
unless that
done.
was a point of clarification, please hold that thought and wait for the discussion portion of the conversation. So any other questions for clarifications on what Mr. Cordova said? Presented. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to hand it over to the Redeemer group. I don't know if we're going by Stand LA or Redeemer, but wherever you want to identify yourself.
Right.
Second presenter, please take.
Right, Richard, who's sharing the screen? Is it you or Brittany?
I'm going to be sharing my screen.
Fine, so I need to.
So please identify yourself, your group, and please proceed with your presentation.
I'm seeing the screen sharing is disabled. Oh,
No, I just enabled it for you.
Okay.
You have it now?
I think so. Okay.
Again, 10 minutes, please. It's 8 o'clock.
Again, good evening, everyone. I'm Richard Parks, and I serve with Redeemer Community Partnership. I've lived in the neighborhood for about 35 years now. I want to, let's see here. I'm just trying to take a moment here to work on this presentation link. Here we go. Okay. So Redeemer Community Partnership has been following the Murphy drill site for years. And this photo you see here is a protest that Holman United Methodist Church and Redeemer organized years ago, back in 2016, just outside the site. As you can see, the drill site is embedded in our beautiful and densely populated urban neighborhood. Laura talked about the sensitive uses that are surrounding the facility. This drill site has a long history of regulatory violations, and we just simply do not have time to go through all of that tonight. But I think it is important to have this as some context. I'm going to focus this evening on just incidents that have happened this year, and I want to begin with an incident that began to unfold last December. So we saw these diesel rigs begin to deliver 5 21,000-gallon frac tanks to the Murphy drill site. And the night before, E&B wrote email to the city, letting them know what was going to be happening and the permit conditions under which they would be taking place. But fast forward a couple of weeks to January 5th, and residents experienced just very strong petroleum odors invading the neighborhood. We went to the drill site to see what was happening, and I can tell you the fumes were intense. I could immediately feel a respiratory impact, a headache. Workers were in head-to-toe protective gear, wearing full-face respirators. The hatches on all of these tanks had been opened so they could vent to the atmosphere. We called AQMD, an inspector arrived hours later after the operation had ended. And initially, he didn't find any violations. However, as he looked at this degassing video that we took, it raised a number of concerns. And upon further investigation, the AQMD ended up issuing 2 NOVs. One NOV was for violating permit conditions that explicitly prohibited the use of the tanks within 1,000 feet of a school. There are 3 schools 870 feet from the drill site that serve almost 1,900 students. The second NOV was for lying to the regulators about the distance to the nearest sensitive receptor. The operator had claimed that the nearest resident lived a half a mile away from the drill site instead of 40 feet. Bottom line, E&B allowed unpermitted equipment onto its lease in a way that put children and residents in harm's way. On March 18th, residents noticed this really dirty brown truck that was equipped to handle radioactive materials enter the drill site. You can see that they had set out cones around the truck and set up a warning sign. That sign warned that radioactive material was in use, and the whole thing just didn't look right. We quickly checked online and we could see that the truck CA number was inactive and that the truck appeared to not have a US DOT number. So we reported this incident to CHP and they opened an investigation. We also checked with the California Department of Public Health, their radiologic unit, and they confirmed that this truck was used to log wells with a specialized sprayer that was loaded with a radioactive tracer for injection into the well. Recently, the CHP completed its investigation. They determined the truck had been unpermitted and illegal for roadway use for more than 12 years. Additionally, when they inspected the carrier's terminal in Bakersfield, they found numerous violations and even decommissioned one truck due to poor maintenance. So E&B hired this company that could not keep its trucks licensed for legal roadway use to transport and deploy radioactive isotopes in our community. As lay people, we could tell something was wrong and immediately confirm it. However, E&B senior management apparently didn't care to notice. On March 17th, strong petroleum fumes were rolling across the neighborhood. We went to the drill site to see what was going on, and we were appalled to see oil cascading over this worker. He had no face shield or protective glasses. Other workers were involved, again, without PPE. We thought this was an extraordinary event, but it turned out it was routine. On April 15th, strong petroleum odors again sent us to the drill site, and the same thing was happening. You know, the LA Municipal Code says that no noise, vibration, dust, odor, or other harmful or annoying substances shall ever be permitted to the injury or annoyance of persons living in the vicinity. E&B is clearly in violation of the municipal code, but the city doesn't have the resources to keep an eye on these drill sites. Now, you've probably seen these signs on E&B's gates as you pass by: danger, no smoking. Seems sort of obvious, doesn't it? And yet, time and time again, we've documented workers smoking on the drill site. E&B's reckless disregard for the safety of residents and workers is just staggering. They cannot be trusted to follow or enforce the rules. And again, the city does not have the resources to watch E&B constantly. The city's municipal code restricts operating hours at the Murphy drill site. On March 26, neighbors spotted this worker perched high above the drill site on the workover rig, working in the dark as the moon rose up behind him. The workover rig was running as a pulley raised a heavy valve, and workers on foot and in a forklift guided it into place in the dark. This work was loud, and it did not end until after 9 p.m. As you can see, there's no additional lighting provided for workers. Following these events, Cal OSHA conducted a surprise inspection of the drill site and opened an ongoing investigation. Last year, the South Coast Air Quality Management District issued permits for 3 new microturbines at the Murphy drill site. Turbines create pollution by burning gas to generate electricity. Soon after the permits were approved, the oil company began installing 3 new exhaust stacks, which was deeply concerning. Next, ENB contracted with SoCal Gas to install a high-pressure gas line. See, ENB wants to buy a lot of gas to burn in our neighborhood to generate electricity. Now, they could just buy electricity from LADWP like the rest of us and not generate localized pollution. But burning gas is probably cheaper for them, and they don't pay our healthcare. Well, you can see that once these exhaust stacks went into use, from the turbines, they blackened the side of the building. And this is exactly what they're doing to our lungs. A new research study by Jill Johnston at USC and other colleagues was released this year. They tested nearly 1,000 residents living within 1,000 meters of the Murphy and Allen Cove drill sites to assess their lung capacity and strength. The study found substantial loss of lung size, lung function, and respiratory health for residents living within 1,000 meters on the downwind side, essentially anything east of the drill sites. These losses in lung function are greater than what research has shown for the average adult living next to a freeway or regularly exposed to secondhand smoke. On May 27th, 2 tankers, each with a carrying capacity of approximately 5,000 gallons, arrived on the drill site with a brew of toxic acid for a 2-day acid maintenance job. Signs went up warning danger, high pressure chemicals in use. These acid jobs require a determination of conditions, essentially a permit and a public hearing. However, ENB continues to acidize wells without a determination of conditions. Essentially, ENB has dared the city to do something about it. Because of public disclosure documents, we know that between 2019 and 2020, there were 7 unpermitted acid maintenance jobs, and we're aware of 2 more this year. Now, South Coast Air Quality Management District inspectors, they sometimes encourage oil companies to use odorants to reduce the number of 800 cut smog calls that they have to respond to. This silver canister appears to be a nebulizing diffuser that spews out nanoparticles of odorant oil. It's located just 50 feet from the AIDS Healthcare Foundation's medical clinic. But odorants only mask a problem behind a really dangerous, or using a very dangerous solution. Through public records requests, we've obtained the chemical composition of an odor counteractant used at the Murphy drill site. If you read these warnings, you will see the oil company has a plan for our children, and it's not to give them a hope and a future. Over the last several months, we've been documenting the night watchmen abandon their post at the drill site. Sometimes they're gone for almost 3 hours. Can you imagine the level of irresponsibility leaving an extremely hazardous, toxic industrial complex in the middle of a dense urban neighborhood for 3 hours? ENB's senior management has no clue, or they don't care. And often, or I should say on several occasions when these watchmen leave, we have seen red lights start flashing across the drill site. They appear to be signaling an emergency, but nobody's there. It's kind of a fitting metaphor. Red emergency lights are flashing at the Murphy drill site, warning us of danger, and ENB's management is AWOL. It is time for us to revisit the operating conditions of the Murphy drill site. If you look at wealthier, whiter West LA neighborhoods, compare those drill sites to what you see in South LA. They're enclosed, they're mandated to use electric workover rigs. Our drill sites are open, they use diesel workover rigs. The drill sites in West LA, many of them use LADWP connections to power the drill site in order to reduce the pollution impact on surrounding residents, E&B is installing a high pressure gas line to start importing gas to burn to power their facility. It's clearly time for us to modernize the Murphy drill site operating conditions. And I'm happy to stop there. There's just so much and so little time to cover everything that's been going on there, but I'm happy to answer questions that anyone might have.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for the presentation. So any questions or clarifications for the information that Richard has presented from anybody? And then we can get into, I don't know how we're going to run the conversation, but if anyone has any questions directly regarding the presentation. Laura?
Yeah, I just would like to know, Richard, does this presentation kind of match point by point the letter that was sent to the zoning administrator, or are there other things in that letter? I mean, compliance issues, or is this sort of a one-to-one?
It is not a one-to-one. There are additional issues in our letter. There will be additional issues which just time did not permit tonight to raise, but will be in forthcoming correspondence with the city.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the presentation? Okay, seeing none, I think the most appropriate thing would be to open up we're not voting tonight. This is a discussion to inform future actions for the government to recommend to the governing board. So anyone that has comments, I don't know if the applicant has any response to what was presented right now, or if anyone else has any other information or comments to provide.
So John, I'll monitor the hands raised.
Okay, I see Steve. Oh, you're muted.
Start again. Thanks, John, and thank you to both presenters. I guess my question is to the ENB representatives, make sure I heard correctly. In terms of the air monitoring at Rancho Park, it's my understanding from the responses that it's not real-time reporting to the community, but it could be. And is the intent to provide real-time reporting, at least access, that the community could access this real-time reporting? I'm a little confused as to what was said between Lou and Ted.
Okay, well, I must have been the one who created the confusion. We've exceeded the capability of the Ingersoll Rand equipment to download the data in a format that we can grab it and produce it in real time. We actually have to go do a data dump from the Ingersoll Rand equipment in order to get the reports when we're interested in them or when we're asked for them. So we've exceeded the capability that the equipment can do for continuous monitoring. So I don't think we opine on our position in continuous monitoring, but we are interested in the technology that eventually will come out that allows this data to stream. Right now it doesn't.
So in terms of the equipment that you currently have installed at Rancho, and I assume it's the same equipment you're proposing to install at Murphy, what would be, so you have to download the data. So though it won't be real time, how often could you download the data and make it available?
We could download the data daily. We have to retrieve the data. And I do want to be clear. I want you to understand this equipment is already operating at Murphy.
Okay, so it's already installed at Murphy and you could download the data daily. Is there anything stopping you from?
We right now we're using it when it alarms. We go and we check the equipment. We see what the alarm is, and then we look to see if there's a reason for the alarm. So far, the only alarm that we've gotten has been CO2 or carbon monoxide from cars on the street blowing into our location. So
right,
when we get an alarm, then we go and we look for an upset condition.
Yeah, that's not really my question. John, I'll stop after this if I can just get a point of clarification in. So I guess what I would like to hear from E&B just regarding the air monitoring that you say is already installed at Murphy is a commitment to download the data at least daily, if not every other day, so the community could access it and review it.
Right now, tonight, I'm not in a position to discuss what our policy moving forward is. We did acknowledge that we have the fence line monitoring, and we put it in the good neighbor portion of this to let you know that we are cognizant of your concerns. And so right now I've not even had these discussions with Ted. So
so will you commit to have the discussion with Ted?
Sure, we'll definitely commit. We'll definitely commit to the discussion with Ted. I'm just telling you operationally how we're using it and why we put it in place.
Okay, so I want to remind everybody that we are recording the meeting. There's a lot of information that's coming by, so we will have access to anything we want to revisit for future meetings. So we don't feel feels a need to digest everything. So I just want to reassure everybody that this is a public recording. So Eric has his hand raised. Eric.
Hi, sorry for the momentary delay. As an educator who's responsible for approximately 1,000 of those students in the neighborhood that Richard was referring to, it's just absolutely appalling that we would allow this type of land use in such a densely populated area, so close to residents and children and senior living facilities and healthcare facilities. Even if this were a drill site that was operated as an exemplary, under the best conditions by a operator with an exemplary record, this would definitely be concerning just because of its location and how close it is. And we have thousands of gallons of acid, radioactive material, not to mention petroleum fumes and actual, generation of electric power. But this is not an exemplary operator. This is not an operator with a good track record. They've been shown time and time again to ignore safety regulations and to put people in our community at risk. So I think my question to the committee, to P&Z committee is, what can we do about this to prevent this harm from continuing in our neighborhood? We know this is harming our children. We know this is harming our senior citizens and anyone who lives near this drill site. And it's just unconscionable that we can allow this to continue. So what can we do to stop this? What can we do to prevent this harm?
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
Laura.
Yeah, John, I was just wondering, did Eric expect us to answer that, or is that a rhetorical question?
I don't know if I don't think it's either. I think
it was absolutely not rhetorical.
I don't think it's rhetorical.
But I can wait until later if that's helpful.
Again, we're recording the meeting. I think it's not incumbent upon us to be in the moment making what our action is going to be and what we can do. But the question is certainly on the record now, and I think we can go and think about it and see what we come back with, unless someone has
and just so everybody knows, we are recording, but I'm also writing down these concerns. But I would caution everyone for whom maybe it's the first or most recent time at a UNNC land use committee. We tend to always put it in the prism of what is the case before the city. So for Eric, I invite everybody, that's why we're posting all these documents, read the case that's before the city to help you formulate some of your own answers, to make recommendations, whether it be to UNNC or to city planning.
That said, this is an open conversation, so anyone who has a thought or a comment, please put it forward. Teresa, I saw you here next.
Thank you, John. I have a question. I'm going to go with Mr. Cordova on this. What are your normal hours of operation?
Teresa, thanks for that question. Our normal hours of operation, according to our conditions of our lease, is we're 24/7, but we're also have some specific things in our rules and regulations that specify certain types of work, certain truck deliveries, things like that. So, for example, we are not allowed to do work outside the hours from 7 p.m. from one day to 7 a.m. the next day.
Okay. And do you contest any of the elements that were presented by Mr. Parks?
Yes, we do.
Can you share with me which ones, or with us?
Sure, absolutely. And before we do that too, I just wanted to, on the record, state that we would love the opportunity to get together with you, Eric. I know you posed the question to UNNC of what are they going to do, but we'd love the opportunity to get together with you and go through all these items with you that you're concerned about, if you'll take us up on that.
Well, I'm glad you do that for Mr. Parks, but we're here right now. Can you, the ones that you have an opinion on, can you share it with the committee?
Yeah. So I think Lou probably took some notes too. I did too. For example, let me start on the first slide that Mr. Parks gave. I think he made a claim that I think it was 29 notices of violations from CalGEM since 2020. So that's just one example that we would contest. We'd love to see the records of what he's referencing there. We've had, since we've taken over our operations since 2019, EMB's received 0 violations from CalGEM. So that would be one thing that we contest, that we believe he's in complete error on. So we invite him to send in those records and let's take a look at them. Lou, you want to go through any others?
So I'm going to say this probably isn't the last time we'll see this presentation at a UNNC or other community meeting. So I guess we'll get these same questions based on the same slides and the same information. So I would say I know it's hard to be in the moment and to answer a question like from Teresa, but I would say I would recommend to be prepared at future meetings, especially if you have a week or 2 or 3 of time to respond to this. I'm not sure if the presentation is available because it's being recorded. So so I would say if you, Lou, if you want to answer the question, if you can, but if not, I would recommend that you do come, because you're not going to see the end of that question.
Yeah, very good. I would like to opine. I was actually appalled at the presentation, and I am an engineer and I do think linearly. And when we bounce around like a ping pong ball and one fact doesn't match with a statement that was made before, I think we need to be very careful. I also was going to open up the site for the STEM training, and being an engineer with multiple degrees and doing this for 40 years, I don't know if I'm ready to do that. But I do want you to understand the amount of oversight that this site sees. This year in 2021, we've had 10 inspections, and a lot of them have been caused by phone calls to the local agencies, and they know who all the players are, and they tell us who the players are. But I've passed every one of those inspections, and the tanks and the water and the drama about the tanks, that's the Cal State Fire Marshal's jurisdiction. And that pipeline is Crimson Pipeline. And that work was done under the control of the Cal State Fire Marshal. And we let them use our site for those tanks so they could retrieve their water. They could retrieve the water that was in the pipeline that was being pressure tested to make sure there wouldn't be a leak in your neighborhood. So that drama was not exactly factual. The brown truck is used to survey our injection wells. It's a little spinning gauge that tells us where the water goes down in Mother Nature. And that's what the brown truck is. And yes, the brown truck is old and it's been around a long time, but it has a California license to operate on California roads. It doesn't need a US DOT license unless it goes between states. So again, I don't believe that that was correct. The noise issues and the noise readings. It depends on the distance to the noise source, but most people don't understand, and you can get the one on your phone, take your iPhone out on a street in your neighborhood, and you're gonna get 60 to 70 decibels when the cars go by. So the 60 decibel reading is misleading. And if you go to a concert, if you went to see the Eagles at the Forum, that's 100 decibels. So that number is also misreading, and it depends on the distance to the source. So I don't believe that was fair to us. The smoking area. A welding rod burns at 6,500 degrees. A cigarette burns at 1,100 degrees. We weld under the rules of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers and the API codes for welding. We have certified welders, and therefore we have a certified welding area or cutting area that we allow our people to smoke in. When you come in and get a preliminary introduction to our oil field, we say we have these safety measures, and we say this is where our smoking area is, because unfortunately people still smoke today. The picture is in our cutting area. The cigarette was 6 times less volatile than a welding rod. The truck that has the person smoking in is a vape pipe. And even the OSHA representative laughed that that was a complaint because vape pipes aren't explosive. Again, misleading for drama today with you guys. The micro turbines. Laura asked a great question when this started, and we supplied all the documentation on the PA memos. There's PA1, PA2, PA3, PA4. We have to abide by all of the conditions that the zoning administrator puts on us from 1961 on. There is probably 3 pages of rulings by the zoning administrator on this site in chronological order that we supplied to you. If you look at PA2, they acknowledge microturbines, and they took the condition not to produce electricity away. That still stands. PA4 does not have the condition that says we can't produce electricity because the zoning administrator took it away. So there's continual talk, and the best one was available technology. Back in the 60s and 70s, when these sites were approved to produce electricity, they were gigantic Waukesha engines, big diesel engines. That was the available technology. Then microturbines came out. Microturbines means little turbine. It's just a little turbine that spins to produce electricity like a generator. And then the state of California did a wonderful thing. They pre-carb certified them, which means they're approved by the state. They're approved by AQMD, the South Coast Management District, to be put into service to produce electricity. And my God, Governor Newsom just came out with an emergency order to come up with more gas turbines, and he's turning the gas turbines back on because we all go, electricity from LADWP, electricity from LADWP. Most of that power comes from a coal-fired plant in Utah. So we're replacing gas-driven turbines to take coal out, which is what we want to do. And the zoning administrators had the foresight to say, E&B, you must follow the latest, greatest technology. And Laura was correct when she said it might be called something else later. But right now, the greatest technology is a microturbine, and that's pre-carb certified. And we didn't put new microturbines in. We replaced the ones that weren't as efficient that were there. We replaced the Ingersoll Rands because Ingersoll Rand got out of the business. And then we put in capstones, and we put in the ones that were pre-carb certified, and the emissions are controlled within the emission systems on those turbines. So all we did was replace something that broke. Again, misleading for you guys. The acid that we use is the same thing as your water softener. If any of you use water softeners in your house, then you're doing the same thing we're doing. Or okay, let's say you boil water for your coffee in a beaker, in a Pyrex beaker, and every once in a while you have to put vinegar in it. That's the same thing we're doing. We're getting the scale off of our pipe. That's all we're doing with the acid. And the acid is controlled by the state, and we're not stimulating with the acid. We don't fall under SB4, which you're welcome to look up. So the chemical compound that's listed in Mr. Park's report is for a glycol generator. We're not running the glycol generator. He took a picture and he put up a chemical from something that we haven't run since we took over the plant. Why? Because the EPA recommended that we use methanol instead of glycol. So we don't even use that system. People don't leave the site. That site is covered 24 hours. We kind of laughed because one of the red lights goes on when the gate opens. So we get phone calls from Mr. Parks when the gate opens because a red light goes on, and the red light is your gate is open. Now, why do we want the gate closed? Because we don't want people walking in there in the middle of the night. Again, misleading to you guys. So yes, I am at odds with the claims that were made, and I would love to take you out on the site on a tour. I've done it with congressmen, I've done it with senators, I've done it with state assembly members. My site in Huntington Beach, I open it up for 600 people to come in and have dinner every night, and I take them on a tour and I let them put their hands in our processes, and I'd be willing to do the same thing for you guys. So this is one of the safest sites that we have, and I take great pride in it. So I am offended by the things that are said that do not have a factual basis.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lou, for that response at short notice. The next hand I saw was Steve. Yep, you're on mute.
Thank you, John. 2 points I wanted to raise. The second one will be to Eric's question. The first one is to Lou. I think to claim that you have approval for the microturbines is a bit disingenuous. There is no approval for the microturbines, or at least the jury is still out on whether there is an approval for the microturbines, and it's been under discussion for at least 10 years. So I welcome the ZA's opining on what needs to be done regarding the microturbines, if anything, because that's a question that has been without resolution. So I think it's premature of you to assume that you have an approval just because the ZA hasn't said anything about it. Regarding Eric's question, I think Eric has a very important question, being a community organizer for about 50 years now. I would like to just suggest to him that the way to make the change is to get your community involved, is get them familiar with the issues regarding this drill site. The surrounding community has been involved in these issues for quite a period of time, over, I don't know, I think there's been 4 vendors in the last 11 years or so. And the community has made great strides to ensure that the site is as safe as Lou wants it to be. And I think that if you are energized to get involved and to get your community involved, you'd be welcome here in terms of participating in trying to make the change that you want.
Just to clarify, the question that Eric posed was, why is this even going on in our neighborhood? So I think, Steve, you were offering more a global response of how, why, what versus.
Well, there's a reason why this is going on, is that it's had city approval for over 50 years, close to 60 years now. And so if you want to make a change in what's going on, then you have to get involved, and you have to get involved in terms of addressing the city on the issues that are before us in order to get the city to make that kind of change. But the city approves these things, right? And that's what the citation of the different city codes has been about in both presentations. The fact that E&B has said that they want to be good neighbors is heartening, but I think there are questions on the table about whether you could be better neighbors rather than just good neighbors. And so again, John, I think that, you know, I think there were two parts to the question. Eric can speak for himself. And certainly one part was, what's going on? Well, it's going on because the city has allowed oil drilling for a very, very long time, even before the Murphy site existed in a variety of ways. And maybe now it's time to change that. But two is the only way to change it is to become involved like you are tonight, but to get your community to also be involved. Thanks, John.
And then also to address the cases that are at hand, which is where we have a direct voice at the moment. Next, Teresa, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, John. Lou, if I could address this to you. Obviously, you were offended by some of the elements of Mr. Park's presentation, but I found some of your comments very condescending, and I suggest if you do come before the board that you adjust your attitude and maybe present it without all of the emotion. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
I wanted to say something too.
Martha, go ahead. There's no one in
Yes.
front of you with their hand up.
I think that first of all, in regards of how good or how bad a neighbor the company is, that's not up to them to say I'm a good neighbor or not. I think the people who have to judge how good of a neighbor the company is the people who live around. The company cannot come and say like I'm a good neighbor. That's not how this works. The people who is gonna say if they are good neighbors is who live around them. That's just preposterous that they think that they can judge themselves how good of a neighbor they are.
Great, thank you, Martha. Laura?
Yes, so I'm back to sort of the beginning, the generic beginning remarks. The case is a review of conditions and a review of compliance. So what we've mostly been talking about is the compliance, right? There's existing conditions. Is the operator in compliance? But I feel the going forward approach should be, are the conditions enough to help the operator be better neighbors, not just good neighbors, as Steve just said, but better neighbors. So if there are, again, for everyone to take home and think about, and that would include Lou and Ted, what conditions, if they don't exist now, would help this operation be a better neighbor? I mean, obviously I actually spoke with Ted earlier in the week. We're in a week when we had nothing here, but in the ocean off Huntington Beach, an oil spill. So that wasn't exactly this has not been exactly a good neighbor week for animals in the ocean and the sand, etc. So, we can't, they're not two conflated situations, but it is conflated in California, where there's an effort on the part of our current governor to eliminate oil drilling of any sort in California by a date certain. And certainly there's been a lot of discussion and effort in the last 5 years at least to really pull back on or eliminate urban oil drilling. But that is not what this case is. We're dealing with a case. And it's Plan Approval 6, review of conditions and compliance, or review of compliance and conditions. So, and in terms of the presentation, Richard, I would be personally, as a journalist by background, far more comfortable if the photographer was somehow identified, or the real dates, date stamp photos, if you made a new thing, something where we know that we're really talking about this operator at this site and something that they're working on, because that would be more convincing to me, because I'm a fact checker kind of gal. So that's all. And I see Demetrius has his hand up. John?
to me, the issue really is if we wanted to make it better, we take the issue of monitoring away from from E&B and give it to the city. The city is the entity that should be monitoring the drill sites, and it is not.
So Steve was next, and then Chris, and then Eric. Oh, Steve, you're on mute. You'll never get used to it. Just don't feel bad.
I'm sorry. I'm live now. Two comments. Again, my first one is to follow up on what Laura said. And Richard, it would be helpful if you would provide the journal citation for the USC study that you talked about. If you could put it in the chat or send it by email to everyone, that would be great. Because I have not been able to find the citation. So it'd be helpful to see the actual publication. And then my second point was lost, I think. Oh, regarding Demetrius and the inspections and the air monitoring. Yes, the city should be doing it. And the question is, how do we get the city to do it? I think the city keeps trying to avoid doing these kinds of things. And so I think it would be helpful if this committee could come up with some kind of methodology to try to get the city to do the things that it's required to do by law. For years, the petroleum administrator position was vacant. Then it was filled, and then the petroleum administrator went to Long Beach or somewhere else. It's not clear to me. I don't even know if we currently have a petroleum administrator. And as I recall, the petroleum administrator audits that were being done were desk audits. They were looking at paper. They were not going to the sites. And so I think it would be helpful and a sign of leadership by UNNC to actually put our smart heads together and come up with a methodology that we think would be appropriate monitoring, and then suggest that to the city as a board proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Chris Carlson.
To that point, I want to share with the community that I have been at several public meetings involving the city and the oil administrator, and it is the actual applicant here, E&B Resources, that publicly is on record asking the city for full-time air quality monitoring, for annual inspections. The company itself, unlike many of the previous operators, has been very proactive at trying to pressure the city to do the very things that all of us, including E&B Resources, would like to see done. And I know not everyone was at those meetings, so I wanted to share that with you.
Great, thanks, Chris. Eric. Eric, you're on mute. You're speaking.
Yeah, sorry, it takes me a minute to get off mute. Thank you for the conversation, and I appreciate the kind of exhortations to get more involved. And I do appreciate the board or the committee, agendizing this item and holding the space in the community to discuss it. I think I do want to say I do support the kind of thing that Steve was talking about, and like, let's figure out a way where we can, hold the city to its responsibilities that it hasn't been fulfilling. But I think, I think I would like to advocate for the community to go further than that, and to actually advocate for this drill site to be shut down. And so, Laura, am I able to make a motion?
Not tonight. This is not an action item.
Because it's just for discussion.
It's just
correct. Correct.
So is it going to be as an action item in the next meeting?
We next time we agendize the topic, we'll put action, and we can take any action.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Oh, wait. I'm going to
Please,
raise
but-
my
but-
raise
okay,
my
go ahead, Laura.
co-chair hand here. If we're sending folks off to do more homework, and the hearing won't be till December or later, the second meeting of this group will be pretty much similar to this, but a report back, and still not. One of our UNNC procedures from the land use committee is to only take an action one time, essentially, so closer to the end. And part of the letter of communication I received today is that the planning department has decided to ask more questions of the applicant and get more answers. So that's one of the reasons the hearing is later. So we would not be able to technically take action until all of that is done.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So though, I mean, I'm not, Eric, I'm not trying to stop you from coming up with a motion and send it to John, but I think it's just too early in the process. And you know what, Eric, I know you've gone through not an oil drilling process, but a land use, long time land use process with us. So you know how this goes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, yeah, I think that totally makes sense. I totally understand there's a process. And like I said, I think it is really important that the committee continue to create this forum for people in the community to come forward and express these concerns. And then I think it's going to be really important for the community to take some action. You know, I plan to continue to advocate for the committee to oppose the continued operation of the drill site. It's just not an appropriate land use for this neighborhood, and it should be stopped.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying it may, unfortunately, it may not be what is on the case. So I'm just cautioning you that there may be even a process at the city side. So anyway, but I know we'll probably have, I think I know, because John and I will, you know, subsequently discuss, and we'll see as well if the board appoints chairs of our subcommittee tomorrow night or even a month from now. So that's a different kind of procedural thing here at UNNC, but because the hearing is delayed, we'll have probably at least one more meeting kind of like this, but it's a report back kind of thing. But there'll be new people and they'll ask new questions.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to get my head around how that would work, Eric, as far as us being activists for some goal that isn't associated with a case. So I think for this, of course, the neighborhood can form, as Steve Peckman suggested, any kind of organization or group that they wish and get the support of the neighborhood council, however that support comes. But I don't know how we can start something with a motion like that. But again, Laura and I will, as Laura said, we'll talk about it, see what can be done. But I definitely come to the next meeting prepared with something, and we'll see what we can do. Or if you email us, and we'll see what we can at least find some way to help the community in the way the community needs.
Right. And Richard has his hand up, and I'll just say I'm going to just keep circling back. But what the case is a review of conditions as well as review of compliance. So the compliance is the thing going down that road. Technically, you know, without me saying one way or the other what my opinion would be, but a review of compliance starts the path towards a potential revocation, which is the word you didn't say, Eric, but that would be what it is. A review of conditions is what can make it better, what will help us while it's still operating. So they are two different things. So John, I'm seeing new hands in the
yeah. So I see, did you say Richard had his hand up? Richard, do you have your hands up?
I do, John. Thanks.
Richard has his physical hand, and Jasmine has her virtual hand.
So next is Jasmine, but Richard, go ahead.
I could not figure out how to raise my virtual hand here. So thank you, Laura, for throwing me a little life raft there. Yeah, I think, Eric, you raise a really good question. I think revocation is totally appropriate. I have no confidence that, you know, our community can live safely next to this community without substantial health harms. So I think the path of revocation is really important and needs to be looked at. On the review of conditions side, there is, I think we should really look at the protections that were extended to West LA literally decades ago. And so if West LA has condition 43, which bans fossil generation, fossil gas, burning fossil gas to generate electricity to power these facilities, if that's good enough for West LA, that should be good enough for South LA as well. If those facilities in West LA have a ban on the use of diesel workover rigs and they're using electric workover rigs, we can have that here too. We should not be having diesel workover rigs operating at the Murphy drill site. If those West LA drill sites can be enclosed, why can't we enclose the Murphy drill site as well? There's a number of issues. I think everyone on this call should not be surprised that E&B is offering to do fence line monitoring. It's actually the very least thing that they could do. We need to ask for much more. We need to ask that those protections that were given to wealthier, whiter West LA neighborhoods decades ago be extended to South LA.
Jasmine.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that for at least on my behalf, but also as a representative of the board, just to thank the folks who spoke and presented today, and just to note, I think similar to the point Teresa was making, that no amount of degrees should undermine the experiences of the community and the concerns of the community. So I just want to appreciate folks who have spoken up about what they are experiencing and how they feel about having this use in their neighborhood. And also just to respond to Eric, I think that while we have a very specific case in front of us, I don't think that precludes us from being able to be thoughtful in how we move forward regarding this case, as well as future conversations around this site. We have lots of incredibly intelligent people on the board and on this committee that can think through, ways to move forward, whether that be putting, the additional provisions that Mr. Parks requested on the facility, or going as far as shutting it down. We're not limited by the case in front of us. I just wanted to make that note.
Yeah, and I would say that what that would mean is bringing a new case, and then whether that case is about revocation or something else, it would be grounded in some process, which I think we could take an action on. So I think you're exactly. I think everyone's correct in this situation. So yes, we obviously have the authority to talk about anything we want, and then support anything we want.
Well, there are also different venues. Meaning the narrow focus zoning administration case is a narrow focus zoning administration case. The broader issue isn't even a zoning administration case, it's a city council and petroleum administration type case. It's there's no case. And I see that Steve has left, but ironically, UNNC actually had written a series of letters asking less nicely than demanding inspections. And this is before the current operator. I mean, in other words, it was like, okay, you have the framework in which to do inspections, dear city officials, why aren't you doing them? So we've sent many such letters, but they fell on deaf ears. Maybe we should start that chain of letters again. And that was, again, outside any particular land use case. So.
Great. So it is 8:56.
Perfect.
Any other questions or comments, and again, this isn't the end, this is just the beginning of a new chapter of this discussion. But if anyone has any further comments, we have about 2 more minutes. Anyone want to say anything? Okay, I'd like to thank.
Ted just raised his hand. We almost got out, but it's okay.
I may be the only thing between everyone finally getting on to back to their family. So I apologize. I'll make this really brief, but I do want to just say thank you for giving us the time tonight. Do appreciate everyone's comments and questions. Do appreciate Richard Parks and the time he spent on his presentation and the time he spends on our site. It's helpful. It's helpful to hear everyone's comments, and we do encourage and embrace everybody's concerns and questions. And I put my contact information in the chat. So if any questions do come up, please feel free to follow up. And open invitation for anyone to come meet with us in person. We'd love to sit down and chat. But again, thank you for giving us this time tonight, and look forward to the future ones and continue the dialogue.
Okay. Does everybody know how to save the chat? Because there's a lot of good stuff in the chat tonight. So if you don't, I will just tell you, you open up the chat and then you'll see 3 little dots. Click on them. And when you click on them, you can hit save chat. But for anybody who finds themselves unable to do that, you're welcome to email me. My UNNC address is Laura, L-A-U-R-A, and then a period, dot Myers, M-E-Y-E-R-S, at UNNC.org, and I can send you a copy of the chat. I'm not putting that in the chat because this is meant for those of you who can't save the chat. I mean, I can put it in the chat, but this is for those of you who can't save the chat. So again, it's laura.myers at UNNC.org. And, but I'm going to save the chat.
Laura, Teresa and I are trying to attach a document into the chat.
I have no idea.
I have no idea either. So if anyone wants to see the letter that we voted to recommend into a CIS regarding.
Do you mean?
I'd like to share my screen. Can you allow me to share the screen, please?
Oh, sure. Sorry, I'm sleeping here.
So Laura, we're going. This is just point of information to post the.
This has nothing to do with Gramercy, right?
It does have to do with Gramercy.
So I have to leave. I'm walking away.
Okay. Go ahead, Teresa. Can you share?
Yeah, I'm trying, John. Goodness. Oh, can you help me share? Sorry, John. I'm going to get my husband to help me share. I did. There's the document right there. Oh, and then hit share. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay.
There we go. So this is the letter we wrote in 1848 Gramercy. It is a public document and is part of the UNNC record. If anyone wants to see it further or read it in its entirety, please let me know. And you can email me at john.arnold@unnc.org. Okay, with that, I think we're at the end of our meeting. I have to check the agenda. I don't have it in front of me. Do you have the agenda right in front of you there, Teresa?
I think that was.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone for your participation. Great conversation. We kept it on the straight and narrow, and full of knowledge and good attitude. So thank you so much for that. And we look forward to future discussions on this topic. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks. If you have anything that you are concerned about, you want to bring to the next Planning and Zoning Committee, please send it forward to me, and Laura and I will discuss it.
Thank you, John and Laura.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, John. Good night, everyone.
Good night.